Hi, I'm Davia Ward Erickson,
And I'm Elena Salks.
and you are listening to Sex is Medicine, your number one resource for holistic sex education. Elena and I are bringing you over 27 years of combined expertise in the field of holistic sexual wellness to help you integrate your body, mind, spirit, and sex.
New episodes drop every Thursday morning, so make sure to like and subscribe on all your favorite listening platforms. And make sure you follow Holistic Sexology Institute on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for your daily dose of Sex is Medicine. Now let's get started.
Welcome back to Sex is Medicine, your favorite podcast for sexual rebels and spiritual warriors. I am your host, Davy Ward Erickson, here with my lovely co host.
Elena Salks.
Woohoo! And we are honored and grateful and delighted to have you here with us once again. I want to shout out, like I do every episode, our gratitude and appreciation for all of you who listen. And thank you so much for your comments, your questions, and your feedback. It is nourishing to both of our spirits so much. Truly, 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 so much. So please keep it coming. We love to hear from you. We love your questions, love your questions. And today, this episode is going to be all about answering your questions. So please keep them coming. And this is one of the last episodes for season one of Sex is Medicine. There will be a season two, so don't despair. There will be a season two launching in February of 2026. So make sure that you are signed up for our mailing list at holisticsexologyinstitute.com to make sure that you are in the know of when season two is going to launch and that you don't miss any of these juicy, juicy, enriching episodes. And again, this week we are going to be answering your questions that you have sent us. And okay, so here we go. Without further ado, Elena, take it.
Okay, so our first question. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost 2 years. We have been sexual with each other, but have not actually had sex. I'm assuming penetrative sex. He is 55, I am 52. He said in the last 14 years since his divorce, he's not been able to have vaginal intercourse with anyone. He loses his erection as soon as he penetrates. He is able to maintain an erection during play and blowjobs and does have orgasms. We just can't make love. He said his ex-wife said something to him at the end of their marriage, and he's been traumatized since and not able to make love to a woman. He wants to heal, and I would love to be able to make love with him, but we're not sure where to start.
I mean,
Oof.
yeah, sister, I hear that. I hear that. That is the most like obvious case of psychological erectile dysfunction that we've heard of in a while. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So, for those of you listening, erectile dysfunction can have a number of different causes. So, some of those are physical issues. These can be actual medical issues like cardiovascular issues, or some other kinds of diseases can impact your ability to have an erection. But these can also be, issues related to trauma, numbness, somatic pain that might be living in the genitals, preventing an erection. And it can also be psychological pain, right? So different factors like trauma, abuse, neglect can all contribute to erectile dysfunction as well. So as Davey said, this is a clear picture of someone who was able to have erections, had a traumatic emotional experience, and now cannot have erections any longer.
Hmm. And so something to always keep in mind about trauma is there's emotional, psychological impact of trauma. There's a somatic impact of trauma. That energy, that unprocessed trauma response lives in the body and the nervous system. And then there's also an energy body impact of trauma. So we have all of those things going on at the same time. We have the energy body impact, we have the somatic impact, and then we have the psychological and emotional impact. And so hearing this story from you, I want to say like how beautiful it is that you are finding ways to connect around this issue. It's beautiful and a testament to your love and commitment to one another. Um, Definitely in terms of the emotional psychological, there's some processing to do there. So it makes me curious, like, is he going through any counseling? Has there been any, like, therapy, talk therapy kind of thing going on to talk through and process the emotions around his divorce and around that, traumatic event? And then the other thing that's coming to me, and this is coming from my personal experience, because one of my partners had something very similar. One of my male partners had something very similar where we were able to begin making love, we were able to begin the penetration, but just a few minutes into it, he would lose his erection because of his past trauma, right? So at the time, we didn't know, like, why. I was just like, why are you losing your erection? 2 minutes in the tank, yo, like, and and I had all the like the women stuff, like, oh, he doesn't like my yoni, and like, oh, like I thought it was about me. But I'm luckily this was like a decade ago, but I was a tantra educator at the time, so luckily I was not overwhelmed with my own insecurities, and I was able to kind of like go into teacher mode for a minute and assess the situation and realize, okay, so this has been happening consistently, and it happens around this time. And we'd been kind of just fucking through it, right? We'd just been kind of like pretending, like, okay, and let's just pretend and, whatever. And his erection would eventually come back. But we were bypassing the trauma. We were bypassing his body's obvious indication that something was arising. And so, because of my training, I was able to encourage us the next time it occurred to pause there, to pause, and then invited him to feel into his body and see what is arising. Because initially, when this thing, when a man loses his erection, the first thing that usually happens for both of us as partners is I'm like, oh, my pussy's whack. It doesn't like my own. And he's like, oh shit, I'm not man enough, right? So the first thing that
Mhm.
arises is our own anxiety, our own trauma, our own wounding and trauma responses. But if we can pause there and not try and push them away and override them, but embrace them as an invitation from our bodies to look deeper, we can work together as a team to dissolve this block to bliss and restore the full capacity for pleasure. And that's exactly what we did. So we paused, and I shared with him, I disclosed to him, like, hey, this is what I think is going on. Let's work together with this. Breathed into his body and just like focused on where he felt tension in his body, breathed into it, and let the story of the body manifest. Let his body tell its story. And there was tears, and there was crying, and there was talk, and we did this repeatedly through several consecutive sessions. So it wasn't like a one and done. And maybe it will be for you. Pray it is. But this was over several sessions. But we just simply took his body's response as the invitation that it was to inquire more deeply into what his needs were, the needs of his heart, the needs of his spirit, the needs of his body. Because the beautiful thing about men is your wonderful lingam can be an antenna, right? It's like an energy. It can give energy and it can absorb energy, right? And it also lets you know, like, woo, things are going great, or whoop, there's a hitch in the giddy up, right? So y'all have a hitch in the giddy up, and the best thing to do is exactly what you've been doing, approaching it with kindness, approaching it with
Mhm.
compassion, approaching it with intention and attention. And I would just invite you, like as a strategy, like it sounds like if he's able to have blowjob, he's able to achieve erection. It's just when he penetrates you, his erection goes away. So let's get that penetration happening. Let's get that penis in the vagina, because the vagina is medicine. Your vagina is medicine. And so I would invite you to penetrate and just hold there. Like maybe, move a little bit, trust your bodies, move a little bit. But when he goes completely flaccid, stay there. Look into each other's eyes. Breathe together. Put both of your attention on your heart center and feel the exchange of love between your hearts. Girl, I guarantee you, I guarantee you that whatever that block is, it's going to begin to dissolve. I bet it already has started to dissolve, but it will fulfill its dissolution phase with the loving attention and presence that you give it together in partnership. So that would be my coaching
Mm.
and advice. Let that get that penetration and just hang out there and then breathe, connect, make eye contact, signal to your ventral vagal pathway that it's safe to be here. Because that sounds like a vagal block in that dorsal vagal pathway to lose the erection like that. It sounds, well, I'm guessing. I can't assess exactly where it is, but based on my expertise, it sounds like a
Yeah.
block in the
No.
dorsal vagal pathway.
Yeah, yeah. Stress and like a high sympathetic response causes detumescence of the penis. So if you're really stressed, you'll get flaccid right away. So you're right. Yeah.
Yep, beautiful, beautiful. So what you want to do is activate or engage the ventral vagal pathway. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. AI Google will let you know all the stuff. So you want to activate that ventral vagal pathway because that signals to the body, mind, spirit that it's safe here. That's like your
Yeah.
autonomic nervous system saying, "Hey, it's safe to play."
Yeah. And when that's beautiful, Davy. And also when you're in those sessions, I really encourage you to set the intentions for the sessions before you begin.
Hmm.
That the goal of the session is not for you to have this like long sustained penetrative sex, but that the goal is to just play, get an erection. If you have an erection, to try penetration, but then that once you have that penetration, the goal is just to be with your emotions, like Davey was talking about. But kind of like frame that for him ahead of time, I think is what's really important,
Yep.
so that he takes the stress of having to be hard through the penetration off the table, because that's not really what you're there for. You're there to see what arises when this reaction comes up where
Mhm.
he becomes flaccid.
Yep. The goal is connection,
Yeah.
right? That's the goal, and how whatever that connection wants to look like, hard penis, soft penis, no penis, however that connection wants to happen.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
the goal is for y'all to connect.
Yeah. And I would also, if you aren't communicating a lot when you're experiencing pleasure together or when you're having sex, I would also really focus on like upping your communication during sexual experiences, so you start getting more comfortable with talking about your internal experiences while you're having sex in a way that feels, some people can it can feel awkward for them, right? So it's an important part of being able to move through blocks is being able to communicate blocks. So you have to establish that with your partner too.
Exactly. And so when we say sex, we mean any sexual activity, not just PIV. So that means while you are lavishing your partner's lingam and worshiping the COCK, have him talk to you about what he likes. Have him express those words. Make sound, moan, and say, "Yes, that feels so good." So invite him. What do I want to say here? Have the create the spatial invitation, meaning creating safe space for him to speak his pleasure into. And same for you. So I think that we don't communicate with words enough about what feels good and what we like, and like, cheering our partner on, go, 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 that feels good,
Uh, yeah, and we definitely don't talk about what's coming up for us unless
Yes.
we learn to.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we're taught to, it means that there's something wrong and we're taught to bypass it because, the goal is orgasm. The goal is epic orgasms. That's the
Yeah.
goal. And when you make epic orgasms your goal, then you want to push away anything that doesn't seem to be leading you to that path. Meanwhile, epic orgasms happen when you're not trying for them. Happens when you're not looking for them most often. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, Davey. This is probably true, but like the best sexual experiences of my life have not been linear to orgasm, right? Like they're like great sex, hit a block,
Yep.
have to
Yep.
deal with the block. Great sex, hit another block, have to deal with it. Cry,
Mhm.
take a break, go back to it.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride to Nowhere in particular. That's yeah, and that's the beauty. Like, again, coming from the perspective of Tantra, the goal is connection and connection through this specific pleasure. And so when we make connection the goal, it takes so much pressure off because then you're just like down for whatever. It's like, oh, okay, so we're having orgasms now, or oh, okay, so we're crying now. Like it's an adventure. It's
yeah.
a weekly bedroom adventure.
Yeah. And if you try those things that we've talked about and you're not getting anywhere with them, then I'd really highly recommend you work with a coach, When it comes to especially erectile dysfunction, since there is such a psychological component to it, it can be really, really helpful to have the support of a somatic sexual healer. Our graduates are all very well trained when it comes to protocols around erectile dysfunction. So reaching out to any of our people and getting some coaching is also a really great idea if this doesn't work for you.
Yes, yeah. You can never underestimate the power of a good coach.
Hmm.
Yeah, for
Supportive.
sexual excellence. All right. So our next question is about the impact of aging on our for pardon me, for women and people with vaginas, the impact of aging and vaginal dryness and thinning tissues. And, is it true that for many people with yonis, the attitude, the frequency, technique, lubrication, all of these things that happen as we age, like, is it true that holistic sexology, tantra can help with this? Like, basically, like, what is your experience with sex and aging? So I'm gonna tell you what my experience is with sex and aging, because I started this little tantra journey when I was 33. And so my body has been through some changes. I'm now 51. I don't believe in ageism, so I'm proud of my age and I look good. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna
you do.
I'm aging naturally in Costa Rica. That's what I'm doing. Um so I'll tell you a little bit about my journey, and what I found really helped is absolutely yoni yoga, y'all. Yoni yoga, jade, whichever program you're doing. We call it yoni yoga when you're using the crystal and doing pelvic floor exercises. Other people call it jade egg training, whatever you want to call it. But it is the practice of working specifically with natural stone in your vagina and doing muscular contractions in your vagina. And I want to explain a little bit about why, not just your vagina, but your pelvic floor, right? But I want to explain a little bit about why we recommend natural stone, because there are some experts out there who I really respect who do not recommend natural stone. And I think that's misplaced. That caution is misplaced, because you can put glass in your vagina and steel in your vagina. Why wouldn't you be able to put a stone that's as hard as glass in your vagina? Um, so the reason that we recommend stone, and there's specific stones that we recommend. So the ones that are actually come from the Taoist tradition and that we've worked with personally and do recommend are jade. So real jade, not fake jade, not jadeite, not this jank dyed jade. You want to make sure it's real jade, which is expensive, but you want to make sure that you're working with real jade. Also rose quartz and also black obsidian. These are the three stones that I've worked with really, really profound beneficial healing results. And why are they so beneficial in healing? It's because the crystal works with your energy body. That's why. Glass doesn't work with your energy body in the same way. Steel and metal is not going to work with your energy body in the same way. But crystal works with your energy body. The frequency of crystal works with your energy body in a very specific way, so that the healing that is catalyzed is not just physical, it's also energetic. And the wellness that you're cultivating through your pelvic floor practices, your yoni yoga practices, the healing is also going to occur, not just, the wellness that you're cultivating is not going to only occur physically, it's also going to occur on the energy body level as well. And if we're talking about sex and aging, again, it's not just physical, there's the energy body component as well. So when our energy body is rich and robust and full, that translates to our physical experience. It translates to our physical wellness. So the more enriched and full and juicy and overflowing with abundance your energy body is, again, that's going to impact and feed into your physical body, so that your physical body is overflowing with wellness and juiciness and all that stuff. So I have found that regular yoni yoga practice, now for me, regular looks like 3 to 4 times a week. Not every day. I'm not an everyday girl. But for me, regular practice is about 3 to 4 days a week. And it doesn't have to take long. It's a very simple practice. Are you a therapist, coach, or sex educator looking for somatically based sexual healing methods to support your clients? Are you looking to become a certified sexologist and seeking a training that offers both an academic and an embodied approach to learning? Welcome to the IHS Holistic Sexology Certification, an accredited trauma-informed certification in holistic sexuality, somatic healing, embodiment, and pleasure-centered care. Early registration is open now until December 31st. Save $2,000 on your tuition when you apply now. Visit us at holisticsexologyinstitute.com to learn more. All right. And you can learn more about these yoni yoga practices in our Tantra healing programs for yoni owners. And we also have a whole retinue of graduates from our Authentic Tantra certification program who are trained and certified to teach you these methods. And one that comes to mind off the top of my head is Baljit Rayat, who is a yoni yoga kind of sexpert. Baljit Rayat, and she is the yoni yoga queen. So there we go, yoni yoga. So yoni yoga is one of the things. Then also I'm going to say to you that one of the things that I've noticed the most significant transformation from is regular self-pleasure practice. Now, an article dropped a little while back about how perimenopausal and menopausal women found the most symptom relief from a regular self-pleasure practice. So they did a study that was funded by WeVibe. So I do want to put that out there. That is, the study was funded by a sex toy company. It was a good study, but it's also interesting that they found that the participants who had the best results also used the device. Now I take issue with that because vibrators do disturb your downward voiding winds. They absolutely do. So whatever, take it with a grain of salt. But the results were undeniable that perimenopausal and menopausal women found the most benefit in terms of symptom relief from a regular self-pleasure practice. And if I'm recalling correctly, the regular meant 2 to 3 times a week. That was regular self-pleasure practice. So I read this article back October, I think, and all through September. So I'm 51. I've navigated perimenopause fairly, largely without incident. I didn't have a hot flash until all of a sudden September of 2025. I'm like, what just happened? I was laughing because I always thought people were like, I would judge people, but other women when they would talk about hot flashes on, psh, I say, it's not that bad. Sorry if any of my friends have complained to me about hot flashes. I was silently judging you. I apologize for that because when I got my own hot flashes, I was like, what the fuck? It has just happened to my body. And it was awful because they're unpredictable. You're just sitting there, everything's fine, and then all of a sudden you are so fucking hot. And there's like sweat pouring everywhere. And I'm in the tropics. It was not a good scene. You'll see some of our earlier episodes in September for Sex Is Medicine. I'm covered in sweat. So then I read this article in October and I was like, well, bet I'm gonna take it. If you're telling me that this is the study what they found, I'm like, A, I want to test it for myself, and B, let's see. Girl, let me tell you, 4 to 5 sessions. I have not had a hot flash since my 5th session. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I'm not lying. I have no reason to lie. I'm not going to make money from lying to you, okay? I am not lying to you. I have not had one hot flash since my 5th session, and my regular practice is twice a week. Okay, so
Wow.
that made a difference. Now, here's the other thing that I'm noticing from my experience. The more I masturbate, the more I want to. Feedback loop. In terms of your libido, I feel you, sister, because when I first started doing this, and it's been like 2 fucking months, right? I'm a masturbating fiend now, but I didn't have a regular practice, and because trauma and life and whatever, and I was like, fuck that. And when coming to the practice, it's not like I was like, ooh, I feel sexy all the time. I want to masturbate. So I came to the practice with the intention of connecting. Like we were saying earlier, I was like, well, I may not be horny, but I do want to connect. And I do want to see if I can do something about these hot flashes. So let me just go ahead and give it a try. So you don't have to be inspired by anything other than your desire to connect when you first come to the practice. Now, 2 months later, Like I gotta, I'm watching movies in bed at night. I gotta turn off the TV and go masturbate and then come back. I can't get through a whole show without wanting to self pleasure myself. So that is a wonderful kind of feedback loop, whatever you want to call it, self fulfilling prophecy. Is the more you masturbate, the more you're gonna want to. So my advice is just get started, see what happens. And those are my two recommended therapies in terms of, I mean, I'm sure there's more to this in terms of aging, so I don't want to make it as simple as this. You know, there's herbs and lifestyle and all of that. But in terms of Tantra and sexuality, I will tell you that the two things that have revolutionized my menopausal journey have been yoni yoga, which is going to help with any pelvic floor issues, incontinence, as well as juicy lubrication. Let me tell you, my yoni, after doing regular yoni yoga, pre and post, juicy, dripping wet, fantastic experience. So you might not want to, that may be TMI. You might,
No, no, it's fine. This is a sex show. It's okay.
so anyway, point is, it makes a difference. Go ahead and try it. Find some of our practitioners to work with, or come work with us directly in our tantra healing programs, and get you some juicy pussy, get you some pussy
Yeah.
juice. Sorry.
And I think it's probably important to note too that your masturbation practice is likely not a very short, like rush to orgasm, right? You're spending those 2 times a week, you're spending nice, mindful, longer lengths of time in your masturbation, really like savoring it and cultivating your pleasure, which is an important part, I think, to this aspect
Well,
of
it's huge,
about
Elena.
aging. Yeah.
That's huge. And you just reminded me that we actually just dropped a program for exactly that. That's how bad of a salesperson I am, y'all. We actually have a program called The Sacred Art of Self Pleasure for women where I walk you through my post Tantra. I'm calling it post Tantra because it's the evolution of my Tantra practice. It's a mingling of my Tantra practice with the wisdom of the jungle, where I walk us through this beautiful, enriching, resourced practice for cultivating holistic sexual wellness. And it does weave some of our Tantra into it, of course. And we work with breath and movement and pleasure mudras and just a juicy, delicious, sacred self pleasure practice. So, to your point, Elena, when I say practice, it's very intentional. When I'm watching TV and I need to shut it off, I'm just going for it, right? So I mean, that's the point. Both you can
Good.
have it both, you can have it all. But yeah, where I noticed the most significant shift in my perimenopausal journey was actually when I was using internal vaginal stimulation along with the clitoral stimulation. So it was not just clit focus. And I wasn't just putting a vibrator on my clit and having a genital sneeze. You're not, you may get some effect from that. I can't say because I don't know, because that's not what I'm doing. Even when I'm doing a quickie, it's not with a vibrator. So you will, what I noticed is I got the most transformative, like tangible, like it was like night and day. Like I was like, oh, that was like a 45-minute session with lots of internal vaginal massage. The next day I noticed the difference, right? And it makes sense with the internal vaginal massage because of the reflexology points inside the vagina. So basically, vaginal penetration is a reflexology treatment, y'all. You are massaging your kidneys, your liver, your spleen, your lungs, and your heart. You're massaging your major organs in your vagina. So doing masturbation practice, self pleasure practice, and including your vagina in the party is part of what gives the full transformation of the full transformative results. Sorry, my mouth wasn't working. I would also be curious to see what happens when you bring your anus to the party, right? Because you know the anus is also plays a part in all of this in terms of winds and energy body and hormones and portals and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
we're gonna try that next and we'll report back in season two. A little experiment. So anyway, so sex and aging, yes, it's a thing. So I can't advise you on, supplements and herbs and whatever, because that's not my expertise. But I can advise you that yoni yoga and regular self pleasure with internal vaginal stimulation is your BFF, my friend. That is your BFF. Okay, next question.
Awesome. All right. This is a short one. What are your thoughts on throatgasms?
I have many thoughts on throatgasms. Would you like to start or would you like me to start?
I'd like you to start because I want to think about it a little more.
Okay, great. So throatgasms. So I think the question probably is, are throatgasms a thing? And yes, my friend, they are. Now, I have not personally had the pleasure of experiencing a throatgasm, maybe just because I wasn't paying attention, but I know several of our students and several colleagues have reported wonderful things. And so when it comes to throatgasms, what is most often happening is you are giving fellatio. You are worshiping the COCK. You are paying homage, lavishing the lingam, paying homage, whatever the king, whatever terminology. You are giving head. That's what you're doing. You're giving head to a penis, to a phallus, right? So some people, and it doesn't have to just be, women, men and women, feel that stimulation at the back of the throat or whatever part of the throat the lingam is hitting, the vajra is hitting, find that very pleasurable. And that makes sense because we do have the vagus nerve that passes through the throat, right? Or innervates the throat area. So you're getting that vagal stimulation similar to when our cervix is being stimulated. That's the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is one of three nerves that innervate your cervix, right? So that vagus nerve brings us some pleasure and joy, y'all. So when you are giving fellatio, you are basically massaging your vagus nerve. That's one of the things you're doing. And for some people, that can give rise to orgasm. Also, I would say on an energy body level, that experience of pleasure, like that concentration of pleasure, your partner's pleasure concentrating in your throat, may be part of what gives rise to the orgasm there, the energetic charge of pleasure. I know when I have given, lingam loving to a male partner and they orgasm in my mouth, like that's a lot of orgasm energy shooting in your brain. So that, I mean, it's like I'm a little lightheaded
Yeah.
and like, whoa, I'm in a whole different reality at that point. So throat orgasms, yay, they're a thing. And I would say if you would like to have throat orgasms and sorry, my mouth is not working today. If you would like to, I'm getting ready for a throat orgasm.
Ha!
If you would like to have them, my advice to you would be to relax. So when you are giving fellatio, really relax your throat and
Hmm.
really attune to the sensation of what you are doing and receive the pleasure of your partner. Like
Mm.
really just relax and open and receive the lingam down your throat, receive the pleasure from your partner and just focus on the sensation, the pleasurable sensation of it. And if it doesn't feel good to you, girl, then do not give you're probably not gonna have an orgasm. If you don't enjoy it, don't put that pressure on yourself. If you don't enjoy
Yeah.
it and you're just kind of fucking through it, see if you can source some pleasure in it. But if giving head is not a super enjoyable experience for you, chances are you're not going to have a throatgasm. That just may not be your thing.
Yeah. And we don't have to have every orgasm that is possible in the entire world. It's okay to just have the ones that that we really are drawn to and
What do
want
you
to
mean,
have.
Elena? I want
Yeah.
them all. I want them all. No, just kidding. But yeah, exactly. Good point. Don't stress
Yeah.
yourself out about orgasm.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing that I was thinking about in terms of like it's the possibility of a throatgasm is also sort of like the psychological component of it, as well as like the responsive desire that comes up with it. So I know a lot of folks have responsive arousal. So the act of giving is something that really turns them on. I know I'm like that. Like if I don't necessarily want to have sex, if I'm get into a giving position, then I become really responsive to it. So that in and of itself can be a turn on, as well as, and I think you alluded to this in what you were saying, the psychological aspect of like the sexual act that you're doing and also the energy you're feeling and like the turn on that you're feeling from how your partner is responding to what you're doing can
Mhm.
also elicit a lot of pleasure and potentially orgasm.
Now, I will say I have had I have had yoni orgasms from giving fellatio, like orgasms in
Yeah.
the yoni. Yeah, like
Yeah,
not
yeah,
myself,
yeah.
but I'm like, ooh, yeah, and like not without even touching myself, just like getting off on my partner's orgasm, my partner's pleasure. I've had my own orgasm, so I guess it would kind of be like
I
an
think that
energy
counts.
orgasm as a throatgasm.
I think it does. I would count it because it's an orgasm that you're experiencing that is related to what you're doing by giving head,
Okay,
right?
I'll take it. I'll take it. I haven't
It
had
might
I
not be
haven't felt it in my
located
throat.
there.
Okay,
but I'm gonna say that it is a related. I'm gonna count it.
All right, there we go. We get a check mark for Davy. It's a new kind of orgasm I've had. Throatgasms that I feel in my yoni from having cock in my throat. Yes, I'll take it. Okay. Okay, so is it my turn to ask the question?
Yes.
Okay, so here we go. So we have a question about what's the difference between squeezing the anus versus squeezing the pelvic floor muscles? And where is the pelvic floor? How can I make sure I'm engaging the right muscle? All right, so teach us, Elena. Teach us.
Yeah, so squeezing the anus, so the anus and the muscles around the anus, not the anus itself, but the muscles around it, are one part of the pelvic floor. So when you're squeezing the anus, you're squeezing a part of the pelvic floor. Maybe not the whole part, but the back end, the anterior part. The pelvic floor is an interconnected system of muscles that kind of the way that it's described in medical text is that they kind of intersect together like a hammock that sits at the bottom of your body. So if you're a yoni owner and you're kind of like sitting up straight and your vulva is kind of flat against the chair, then all of the muscles around your vulva and around the anus, that's your pelvic floor. So I know it goes from either side. They're connected, I believe, to the sits bones on either side. And then from the pelvic bone in the front to the tailbone in the back, I believe, are the different anchor points for those different muscles. And they are responsible for holding up our organs, right, when we're standing up. And they're also responsible for reflexing to the various processes that are happening inside of our body. So one of them being, every time we breathe, we inhale, we fill our lungs, and that pushes pressure on our diaphragm in our body, and that pushes pressure down on our pelvic floor. So the pelvic floor responds and flexes outward to allow that breath process to happen fully in our body. So it holds stuff in, it creates those openings that allow us to pass, urine, feces, have babies, squirt, things like that. And then it also is responsive, allowing our body to function.
Beautiful. And so for lingam owners, pardon me, people with penises, men, um, similarly, I mean, the pelvic floor works the same in you as it does in us, but a way to understand which muscles you're engaging is by stopping and starting your pee. So when you go urinate and you're standing at the toilet, try squeezing your muscles to hold it back. So, like, if you're out somewhere and you've got to pee or you've got to poo and you can't just go on the street or in your pants, you got to hold it in. Well, those are the muscles you're using to hold it in. You're using your pelvic floor muscles.
Mhm.
So if you want to experiment, a little way of training, I've trained men to recognize and work with their pelvic floor muscles is when you're standing to pee, you relax and let the pee come out and then you stop it. And then you relax and you let the pee come out and then you stop it. And then you relax and let the pee come out and then you stop it. You do that like 3 to 5 times every time you pee. That's a little pelvic floor workout while you're urinating. Now you don't want to do it all the time because you don't want to create issues, but you can do it a few times, a couple times a day, a couple times every other day, whatever, just to kind of acclimate yourself to what you got going on down there. And then you can do more focused pelvic floor exercises. There's a variety. You can do Kegels. If you want to learn the tantric version, again, you can work with us in our tantra healing personal coaching programs where we do teach both yoni yoga for yoni owners and power wind exercises and pelvic floor exercises for men and people with penises. So they are muscles. Like, it's just insane to me, like Western culture is like, you don't need to exercise your genitals. Yes, you do. They're surrounded by muscles. The muscles are an important part of achieving and maintaining an erection. Muscles are an
Yeah.
important factor in our orgasms, our ability to have enriching, long, transformative orgasms. For you men, your ability to control your pelvic floor muscles plays a role in your semen retention. For
Hmm.
us yoni owners, having developed pelvic floor muscles help with our orgasm, childbirth, and squirting, as well as our menstrual cycle and perimenopause and menopausal stuff. So they're very important muscles that are very much
Yeah.
ignored in Western society.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, the pelvic floor is involved in almost every sexual dysfunction that I can think of, right? Maybe with the exception of out of control porn use or out of control sexual behavior, but vaginismus, painful penetration, anorgasmia, premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, anorgasmia for lingam owners as well, low libido, they're all linked to the strength and tonicity of our pelvic floor as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So very important. And then for folks who may have chronic tension in your pelvic floor, the first thing that I'm going to recommend is go get you a pelvic floor therapist if you
Hmm.
can, like get some professional support. And the thing that I've learned from my students, quite frankly, in term who have had pelvic floor issues, is that generally there's not a weaving of pleasure in relationship to restoration of the pelvic floor. And so work with your pelvic floor specialist, but also things like self-pleasuring and then contracting and releasing the pelvic floor muscles has been very supportive for healing the root cause of that chronic tension in the pelvic floor.
Yeah, yeah, that's a huge aspect. Um, And so just to wrap it up, I guess the main question was how can they make sure they're engaging the right muscles? You talked about starting and stopping the
Up in your
flow of
belly.
urine,
Hmm.
which is good for yoni owners and lingam owners.
Hmm.
I think it's important to note too that like stopping and starting the flow of urine engages kind of almost the front of the pelvic floor, while as squeezing the anus engages the back.
Hmm.
So once you have a sense of those two different feelings, then you can focus on doing them both simultaneously so that you get a full squeeze. Um, and then yoni owners can also insert a clean finger into their vaginal canal, and they can practice, squeezing around their finger as well to locate, to figure out how to feel, how to flex their pelvic floor.
And that's why using like a yoni egg or something is so great
Mhm.
inside the vagina because you may not feel it at first, but as you develop that vaginal dexterity, as I like to call it, you can then start to feel more subtle sensations and grip. You actually strengthen your grip from having something inside the vaginal canal.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And next question. Take it.
All right. I'm recovering from porn addiction. So, in not fantasizing, I'm already noticing how numb I am, scarily numb. Because of that, it's really easy to get bored.
Yeah. So I want to point out that there's a difference between porn and fantasizing, right? So porn is somebody feeding you what they believe is erotic. It's their version of eroticism. It's a projection, shall we say? And you, as a willing participant, are like, oh, okay, I agree that's sexy, and yes, that's turning me on. Your imagination is your version of what's sexy. Now, of course, you can be fantasizing about things you see on porn. Of course, that's fine, but it's still your imagination. It's inside you. And your imagination can be medicine, it can be healing. So, in relationship to recovering from porn addiction, I want to invite you that your healing can still be erotic, right? Whatever you got from porn, that stimulation, you can cultivate inside your own mind, inside your own awareness. And that isn't disassociating. That actually can be used as a tool for connecting to your eroticism, your imagination is beautiful. And fantasizing, like having erotic thoughts, is a real thing. Like the brain, as Elena always says, that your brain is your biggest sexual organ, right? So fantasizing about sex stuff is like then the body responds. Like that's kind of a miracle to me that you can think about sexy stuff and you can get wet or you can get hard
Yeah,
just thinking about it. I'm
yeah,
like, that's really cool. Like nothing's happening, but I'm just thinking about this and I'm having a physiological response of arousal from thinking of this. That is beautiful. That is the way God made you, and that is beautiful, and that is something to work with. And so I want to applaud you from letting go of the visual porn. Like, let the internet have keep that shit. It's not meant for your well-being. I trust me when I tell you. I mean, I think porn can be used skillfully, so I'm not judging porn as a thing, but the porn industry is not here for your sexual health and well-being. I'm just telling you, absolutely that's not what their motivation is, right? So bearing that in mind. So beautiful applause for you for stepping away from the visual porn, internet porn, and wanting to resource yourself. And part of your resource is your imagination. So I'm going to, invite you if it feels appropriate, because you know yourself better than I do, but allow in your self-pleasure practice as you're working with these methods, because I know you're a student of the Institute, which is how we got this question. So as you're working with these methods, allow yourself to be turned on by your imagination. Think about things that fucking turn you on. That's it, yes. And bring that turn in into your practice. That's the thing. When you don't have the computer in front of you, your attention is not going to the computer. When it's you and your imagination, it's all here inside of you. It's an internal experience that you can integrate. You're weaving your imagination and your eroticism and your fantasizing into your practice, and you're using these methods, and you're noticing with your breath, and you're riding the waves of pleasure. This is a beautiful thing. This is an integrative experience. It's an integrative experience. So go on and get you some fantasy. Use that imagination and allow your eros, your eroticism to thrive in your own body and in your own imagination. That is my advice to you. What you got to say to that, Elena?
Yeah, I love that, Davy. That's beautiful. And what I really like about it too is it offers a solution to allow him to sort of feel some sexual pleasure really quickly while he's also dealing with these kind of frightening numb feelings that he's becoming aware of right now. Because if he's a student and if you guys have been listening to us this whole time, you'll know that when that numbness is a sign of a block arising or, something that's going on in with the tissue that needs to be released. And the way to work with it is to bring our awareness to that numbness. But that can be really challenging, especially with numbness, right? Like he's getting bored. It's hard to know exactly what to do when you're sitting with that numbness. It can be so frustrating, especially when it doesn't resolve right away. Like I've dealt with some numbness in my genitals as well that's been really stubborn and persistent, and it's so frustrating to kind of like continue to use the methods that I know work, but to have them take a long time to release I can just get really worked up about it. So it is really nice to also have this, to be able to fantasize, to be able to kind of like engage that sexual energy in you so that you can kind of like it's a tool for helping you move that forward without, like you said, dissociating from what you're doing. And I like that when you're doing it, when you're sourcing it internally, you can take breaks. Like you can use it skillfully. Like I can
Mm-hmm.
fantasize a little bit and get turned on, and then I can bring my awareness back to my numbness and
Mm-hmm.
breathe and like feel into my tissue and like how does it feel now? And now I'm going to masturbate a little bit and maybe I'll fantasize a little bit more and then I'll stop and check back in and see how that numbness feels. So it makes that the process of releasing so much more pleasurable, I think.
And so, what you're describing, what comes to mind is the translating pleasure practice. So, we're using the pleasure of our erotic fantasy to fuel the sexual activity and then apply that sexual energy to the numbness and the cause of the numbness. So, it's just translating pleasure instead of body point to body point, it's mind to body or energy to body, if that makes sense. But they just got that translating pleasure thing. And now that we're talking about it, like, yeah, in terms of using it to work through numbness, I'm realizing that yes, I've done that too. In terms of, yeah, like if I'm like whatever and not really getting turned on or whatever, allowing myself to fantasize. Like I've got a couple like go-to fantasies that really get me going, right? Allowing myself to fantasize, and then that brings some juice literally juice to the experience, and then it can kind of like it catalyzes it so it kind of can take off on its own. But you need some support to get through that numbness, otherwise, like you said, you're going to get bored, you're going to get disinterested, and it doesn't have to be fucking a slog, y'all. Like it does not have to be a slog. So use the supports that you need, such as your imagination. Use your imagination as a support for your practice. And in Tantra, we're using our imagination. We're visualizing shapes and, chanting sounds and visualizing things. So this is just another way of using your imagination while you're cultivating your sexual energy. Yeah. Yay! All right. Well, that is all that we have for you today. And well, this is one of our last episodes again for season one. So thank you so much for joining us for the first Sex is Medicine reboot season. It has been a joy and a delight, and we cannot wait to get back to you in season two. Season two, we are going to have more guest interviews. I forgot how much I like these until we started doing them again. And I think y'all like them because y'all have been listening. So we're going to do a lot of guest interviews, and then Elena and I are going to do a lot of Q&A. And as you've noticed, we have abandoned our hot topic. Yes, we did. We left it by the wayside, mostly just because I fucking forget. That's why. I'm just like, oh,
Ha!
we're supposed to do a hot topic. So if we find one that we like, we'll bring it into the conversation. But I'm kind of too fluid to be like, okay, this is our schedule. And then I like throw our schedule out the window because I completely fucking forget about it. And I'm just going with what's happening in the moment. So that's the way we ride here. That's the way we flow here. So season two will bring you lots of interviews and lots of Q&A. So please keep those questions coming. We love them. We love them. We love them. And if you want to learn more about holistic sexual healing, of course, go to our holisticsexuality.institute.com. That is where we are hosting our Tantra for personal healing and our holistic sexology certification. And as I have said, we have 2 more weeks for our early registration. Only two more weeks for early registration. Save $2,000 on your tuition. So if you want to go get you a holistic sexology certificate in 2026, make sure that you get in while you can because the tuition is going up by $2,000. Like, why would you leave that on the table? All you need to do is get your application in by the 31st. That's all you need to do. Application in by the December 31st, and we will get you enrolled after the holidays, and then you'll be up and running. Classes start February 25th, 2026. So holisticsexualtyinstitute.com. Check out our government accredited, soon to be ASECT approved holistic sexology certification program. Yay. All right, amigos, amigas, muchas gracias. We wish you a blessed and loving and supportive holiday season, and we so look forward to seeing you again in the new year. Make sure you stay subscribed to us, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and make sure that you are on our Instagram channel as well because we dish out, we pay a lot of money, a lot of posts for you every week. So we want you to appreciate it. And take advantage of it because a lot of energy and intention goes into those posts. So much love, many blessings, and we'll see you next year. Happy New Year.
Bye. You've been listening to Sex is Medicine, your number one resource for holistic sex education.
Make sure you like and subscribe to Sex is Medicine on all your listening platforms and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, where you can get your daily dose of Sex is Medicine videos and episode recaps. Also, make sure you register for your weekly dose of Sex is Medicine at holisticsexualtyinstitute.com and send us your questions, please, at questions@holisticsexualtyinstitute.com. Thank you so much for listening to Sex is Medicine.